Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca Talk. I'm your host, Gabriel in the Spanish capital. And joining me today is Craig McGeough. Craig, are you ready for the new season?
I am very excited.
Yeah. Before I get into your final thoughts about your favorite player, my favorite player of all time, just want to get through some quick admin things. First of all, just wanted to give an update on our programming because I'm actually going on vacation till the end of August. Finally, I've been pretty busy here this summer doing recordings with Barca Talk Cafe, and it's my turn because Mariana right now is on vacation, so it's my turn to go on vacation. I'm headed to the beach, so I'm really excited about that. Nice. And the last thing, I just want to give a quick update on our Patreon community, which has been strong all summer long. We've had a fun summer recording, like I said, Barca Talk Cafe all summer, and also just the community itself has been really awesome. Especially, what I've been enjoying a lot is just the banter we have, during these updates that come with Barca. The news, like the press conference and all that. So I just want to give out a quick shout out to these new members that we have and just go from there. First, shout out to Elmo, Mike Brochu, Troy, Greg, Richard Mensa, Carlos, Gilbert Guzman, Angel Lopez, and Trey Sion. And like I said, our WhatsApp has been really amazing. For example, this past week, one of our members shared some medical news about his wife finishing some cancer treatment. And so our whole community was very supportive. And recently you were touched by cancer. Why don't you tell some of the listeners about what happened to your family recently?
Yeah, so thankfully we look like we're at the end of the tunnel. My mother-in-law has been battling breast cancer for the second time, and thankfully it looks like she's come through it for the second time, which is great. We recently lost myself and my wife both recently lost our dads from cancer. So it's an awful disease, and sadly I think it affects everyone. So here in the Northeast, there's a famous run, the Great North Run, which anyone in the UK will have heard of. Maybe some guys outside of the UK and Europe might have heard of it. But it's a half marathon, very picturesque. And the plan was to run that, but with COVID, that's been cancelled. So I've decided on the 9th of September, I'll be playing 4 rounds of golf in a day, which seemed like a great idea at the time to raise money. And then I kind of played 18 holes of golf last week and was exhausted. So I don't know how four rounds in one day is going to go, but all for a good cause. And yeah, the group was mega supportive, and it's really appreciated from me, from my family, and I guess for anyone battling cancer.
For sure. And we have that information in our show notes. So if you want to get more information about Craig's quest for 4 rounds of golf, to help, to bring some more awareness to cancer. Because, everyone, like you said, everyone's been touched by this by some, by some family member. Yeah, exactly. So, it's good news about your mother-in-law, obviously. And
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. And, like I said, the information is on our show notes. And if you want to help, donate in any way, that information's there. After the break, we share our final thoughts on Messi and talk the positives of the Real Sociedad match. All right, Craig, let's get into this. Last week, we received the shocking news that Barca could not sign Messi, and Messi was quickly captured by PSG. Before we talk to Real Sociedad, let's just get some of our final thoughts about this, truly kind of sad ending to the saga of this Messi, renewal that we all thought that was going to happen, And, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and reading a lot of information. And, my kind of first question is this, it reminds me of, in the movies when someone is plotting a revenge. Did PSG do this to Barca? Just starting with the Neymar transfer and ultimately getting Messi for free. This is pretty remarkable. If you, if you tell me in 2015 that Neymar and Messi were going to be on PSG and Barca wouldn't be able to sign any players, I would have told you were crazy.
I take your point. I don't see it that way. To me, it feels like, and I don't watch many movies, so I should have a reference for this, but I don't. So apologies, any movie buffs out there. But it feels like one of those movies where Mr. Bean, for example, where he just keeps bumbling his way through and getting out of the traps that's set for him. And I think that's what's happened with PSG. I don't think they've destroyed us. I think they were they had the ignition, to quote R. Kelly, that started us destroying ourselves, and it's continued. So, for example, PSG gave us lots of money for Neymar. It was us that spent it horrendously. PSG just happened to pick Messi up after we'd got ourselves in the mess that we've got ourselves in. So I don't think PSG have proactively done anything to us I think we've done it entirely to ourselves. But to your question about, how do I feel about it ending? I'm actually in a really good place with it, to be honest. I think it's a better ending than we would have seen last season had that happened, and it probably should have happened last season. It's a better ending for the heart, not as good for the head because we got no money for him. But I'm all right. I'm actually the rebuild needed to happen. It needed to happen. Maybe we could have got another year out of it, but we needed to move on. And to me, I've said this to you once or twice. It was like getting punched in the face, and all of a sudden you've got that moment of clarity. You're not getting it long, drawn out pain that we had with Xavi and Iniesta. To me, it was a case of bang, smack in the mouth. What do you do next? So I've got a real sense of clarity about it, and I'm very excited about the season, Messi or no Messi, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think I was more mentally prepared this time, especially of what happened last summer. And I think I had already been ready for this. And also, being a professional sports fan, the relationship, this always happens. You're very lucky when you have a player, a superstar, a phenom player plays for your team for more than 10 seasons. And we were all lucky enough to have Messi play for 20, and that's pretty remarkable. Now, again, I'm very jaded when it comes to professional sports and this kind of romanticism we have. So I was always prepared because it is a business essentially. Here in Spain, especially today when I was watching the news and just watching the Laporta reaction and so forth, I know that Laporta was always trying to sign Messi. I mean, that was always his goal. He wrote that on his campaign. But I just really wish that he was just a little bit more upfront with the expectations that Messi could not sign. I wish it was just more upfront. Maybe he was in his own way, but I just wish he was just more blunt about it so that the turnaround of that Thursday wasn't so shocking as it came down, because that's really what happened. I think if he had said in June, like, this is not looking good, and really like laid out the exact reasons, with this, I think a lot of Coolies would have had an easier time accepting Messi not returning this season.
Would they though? Would they? And I genuinely doubt that's an open question. I think if you break it down, like, one, if Laporta doesn't say he's going to renew Messi, he doesn't get elected. I think that's just where we all need to start. Is that we said it when elections happened. I know I was very vocal about it. The man is as slippery as an eel. Like, he would slip through gaps that you couldn't fit oxygen through. So that's the first thing. Is that whenever you're dealing with Laporta, you're dealing with a politician and a lawyer, and them two things are arguably as bad as each other. The second thing I would say is that if we take them at face value and say that the audit was a surprise and it was worse than they're expecting, then fair enough, the reaction is necessary. Third thing for me is it's kind of like, if you ever make plans and you really hope, and I know a few of my friends listen to this, so hopefully they won't think about them, where you make plans and you really hope they don't happen, and then on the other side pulls out, you're like, oh no, I'm genuinely devastated, we're not going for dinner tonight. I wonder how much in Laporta's mind he's secretly glad that Messi is going, because they can now start to rebuild properly. Rebuilding, even with Messi taking that salary cut, the shadow of Messi looms over everything that he touches. The rumours of him leaving would have got worse, not better. He would have had to leave at some point soon. Constant questions about, well, Messi should get paid more. Or even worse, it would have been, well, you need to sell him. You can't afford to pay him properly. That's when you would have seen the PSGs and the cities of this world really looming around him like vultures, knowing that Messi's getting paid a quarter of what they could offer him, hypothetically. So I think Laporta publicly is doing what he's doing and he's saying what he's saying. I wouldn't be surprised if privately he's breathing a bit of a sigh of relief. If we win trophies this year, people will forget about what happened with Messi for a little bit, and then it'll be resigned to history. I think Laporta secretly will be slightly happier than most of us that this has panned out the way it has.
Yeah, it's a good point, because without the rebuild, mentality, right? You have to have Messi out of there, right? And again, this is one of the ways that you do it, right? Like, you kind of just say we just can't do it, and just kind of blame. You're basically blaming Bartomeu's board for the reckless spending. Exactly. And saying it was his fault, and we have to. And I've been preaching rebuild, for the last year at least since, but yeah, again, I guess it's just sad because with no fans in the stands, there was not a proper send off, and I think that's what happens. You just want that to happen, especially with the caliber and the talent and the phenom that Messi has, and the relevance and importance he's been for Barcelona. Yeah, I think that ultimately he may come for like one kind of retirement season, or at least one day contract due of Vuelta, something like this? You know how they do it in the States. You don't think so?
Yeah, I don't see it. I think
No?
signing players in American sports is a hell of a lot easier and less bureaucratic than it is I don't see it. I think he would either come for a season or half a season, or he wouldn't come back. I don't think he'd come back and retire at, like talk of Clay Matthews coming back and retiring a Packer this week, which is just ludicrous, really. I don't think we'll see that. Do I see him coming back to Barca? I don't, to be honest. I think the love that Messi has for Barca significantly is outweighed by the love that Barca has for Messi. I think in his eyes, it wouldn't surprise me if he just moves on now. I think he'll always hold the club dear, but do I see him coming back and being the ambassador that was rumoured? Probably not. Do I see him come back and playing? Probably not. Once his family are out the city, I think Messi's the kind of guy laser focused where he just moves on, probably.
Yeah, could be. Last two things I have before we close on this. Do you think this changes Laporta's legacy? Obviously, Laporta is responsible for kind of the rebirth, with the whole Ronaldinho saga. And now I know that, it's Bartomeu's board that is ultimately physically responsible for all the situation. But do you think this kind of changes Laporta's legacy going forward? I mean, what does he have to do? Because, I can tell you, Craig, I was watching News Day and the fans were not happy last night. People were calling him names outside the stadium. They raided his car. So again, these are the images that I'm seeing here. It's mixed on the Twitter. I don't think it changes. I'm still on a wait and see because we have to see the end of his presidency, but he's playing with fire here if he doesn't deliver trophies and deliver a proper rebuild. Well,
it depends what Laporta's legacy is, doesn't it? Because for me, I've said this many times on the pod before, I remember being the first myself and my wife, that was a harder sentence than it needed to be. Myself and my wife, the first time we ever left the UK together was we went to watch a Champions League game in Milan, and I had to explain to her why they were singing Barca sí, Laporta no. And she was like, but is he not your president? Is that not your guy? So to me, in my head, that is still Laporta's legacy, is Sandro Rosé saying we can't afford to print in colour. That's Laporta's legacy to me still. So it depends what you mean by that. Is it a preemptive measure of his legacy from this term? I don't think so. I think trophies will be, back to your point. I think if we win the treble, which I know it's a ridiculous statement, and I don't think we will, I think we'll do a domestic double, by the way. But I think if we were to win a treble, no one's going to care less. It'll be resigned history, as I've said. If we don't win a trophy, I can see it being a very difficult year for him. So I don't think it's necessarily his legacy, but I wouldn't like to take a new job on in the scenario that he's got for himself. But at the same time, I'll repeat my point. I don't think this is necessarily away from Laporta's playbook when he took over. Try and get Messi out and rebuild. And
it's funny because, do you think he's regretting this second term? This now? You don't think so? No.
I don't think so, because if he turns this around, did you listen to the press conference today where he mentioned that, from now on there'll be no more average players? It will be a case of La Masia and the best out there. If you're Laporta, you've got nothing to lose. Yeah, you've got nothing to lose, and if you see it as the man who comes back and rebuilds La Masia, if you see the world Laporta the way the world Laporta does, that's potentially the highest honour you can give, is that he takes La Masia from this bit part that's been forgotten about. That's arguably bigger than anything else. If he gets, if we all of a sudden see a starting 11 all from La Masia again, that's the biggest bit of kudos you can give him. He's already won everything with Messi. Let's not forget that. So I think that, the tick in the box to Laporta is that he's got the Messi camp, publicly for now at least, saying, no, Laporta's done everything he can. He tried everything. If you're Laporta, you just move on and hope for the best now. So I think Laporta's probably all right. This will die down. There'll be another.
Yeah, for sure. Soon. Especially if the team wins. Obviously, that's always everyone has 5-second memory. So as long as they win.
At the match yesterday, 10th minute of the first half. Messi, 10th minute of the second half, when we're 2-0 up at the time, 3-0 up maybe, and all of a sudden mixed reaction to that. I mean, we're one of the most fickle fan bases in Europe.
Correct. Totally. They are. Last question, because obviously this could, the Messi move going to PSG could directly, relate to what Real Madrid does in the future. Do you think Mbappe stays, or do you think this is kind of the final straw where Mbappe wants to do his own project and come to Madrid and ultimately strengthen them with a world-class superstar?
My hunch was that, and this was long before the Messi stuff, was I remember this came through conversations about us signing Haaland, actually. So this isn't linked to the Messi story necessarily for me, but when people were saying about Haaland, I was convinced that Mbappe would do one more year in Paris and then go to Madrid basically for free. I still think that'll happen. I think next summer, Mbappe and Haaland both move, and that'll be a big story that plays out wherever they both go. I think if you're Mbappe now, you must look at it and think, go and win a Champions League with them players and then disappear and go and get a big payday somewhere, because if Messi overshadows him in Paris, Mbappe's stock for me is dropping every week. So if you're Mbappe, you need to go win some trophies, so you're not in some big trophies, so you're not deemed a bit of a failure at Paris, which I think he arguably has been, and then move on. So to me, it's where I thought he would be. It doesn't change it. I certainly don't think it makes him stay longer, to argue that point, but I don't think he'll leave any quicker. How about you?
I'm especially just seeing already kind of the immediate reactions that Mbappe has had with the team and Messi. I can just see him already having one foot out the door. And like you said, just getting that Champions, this obviously that's going to be super motivating for them to get the Champions trophy this season. And then I could see him going to Madrid next season.
Is he not in the same position Messi was in many ways, which is where afford him. Madrid can't afford him this season, I don't think.
No. But this is the thing, right? With people coming back to the stands. I mean, this is what's crazy about Madrid is like, how are they going to have fans at that stadium where they're playing right now? They can only have like 5,000 to 10,000 people there. Yeah. Again, it's complicated, right? But also more importantly, like, last week with the deal being blocked by Barcelona, Madrid, Atletico, and so forth. I mean, they're still trying to pine for the Super League. It's crazy, and the latest rumor too is that Madrid wants to join the Premier League. Like, we'll relax here, If
Celtic and Rangers can't get themselves in, I reckon Madrid's probably a step too far, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, dreaming's free, as we always like to say. Well, let's close the book on that. I mean, obviously, we know. I mean, you have a tattoo of Messi. You know my love for Messi. I mean, it's I'm excited to see what he does in Paris, just like as afar, just to kind of see what he does with Neymar and that trio. So that'll be interesting. But let's get into last night's match. Let's get into last night's match against Real Sociedad. Barca won 4-2, and I have to be honest. Like they definitely played better than I thought that they were going to play as a whole. But man, the first thing I want to really just highlight is how dangerous or more dangerous we were on set plays than we ever have been, I felt. And I don't know if it's just directly related to Memphis just giving better service right off the bat and understanding that we have some tall players. But I just felt, I don't know how you felt with this, but like, obviously on the PK goal, the set plays just looked like they had more teeth. And that is something we've always been missing for a little bit. And I think having Memphis give these kind of deliveries is going to be a special threat for us in the future.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's very early to make the call that, we've now added a new tool to the armory. But that if you were going to pick one area that Messi was just consistently underwhelming, it would be set plays that weren't shots at goal. I think there's no doubt that taking free kicks, trying to score, he's brilliant at. But the amount of times we would waste corners and free kicks, the amount of times we've been on this show together, saying just let us go and take the ball back from our own box and we'll start again. So I thought that was pleasing. I think it's just unpredictability now, isn't it? And that's I mentioned chaos at the top of the show, and I mean it with a lot of love, which is so much of what we did with Messi on the pitch was very predictable. Yeah. And I think that stemmed to absolutely everything that we did, including set plays. And I think now, if you're setting up to play this Barcelona team, how do you set up to players now? Because it's very unpredictable. And I think hopefully that will get through to every part. And the set plays last night were brilliant. PK's run was so clever. Yeah. The ball was whipped in with pace, which again, the amount of times Messi would fail to beat the first man, or it was floated in. Like, it's, if you look at PK's header, he's not putting any force on that ball. He's just directing it. That's exactly what you want when you're attacking a ball. So I think if that's something that Memphis gives us more of, then brilliant. But also, we've got Griezmann, who whips a great ball in as well. So we've now got two options, unpredictable again. So I can see it being just beautiful chaos this season, and it was a great start for that.
Well, let's continue with this theme of unpredictable chaos. And I think, the good thing is that you finally have Griezmann playing in his natural position, right? And you saw the balance that he uses the left and the right. And obviously with this unpredictability was Braithwaite and Memphis switching those flanks and going, especially Braithwaite. We have never, ever seen a performance by Braithwaite like this. But I'm telling you, Craig, he looked so natural. It was unreal. Like he looked like he was playing, you know how when American football players, when they train with the parachute, have you seen this?
Yeah.
I felt like Martin Braithwaite finally didn't have the parachute. and he was just playing the way. I'm not saying, look, I know he had 2 goals, and everyone, especially here today, everyone's like, is Braithwaite going to score like 15? Yes, I'm not saying this at all, but I'm just saying the effort and using that right flank and actually getting service from that side was something we haven't done in a long time. And that goes into this chaos that's going to continue because now you don't know where to defend because now Griezmann's taking him through the middle and he can go left or right. You're rolling your eyes and I already know what you're going to say. So tell me.
So this is the bit where I was hoping that I wouldn't have to burst some bubbles. Right? Griezmann and Memphis were brilliant last night. Really, really good. Worked so hard. Awful to play against. Braithwaite scored 2 absolute sitters.
I know.
In the commentary, the co-commentator, I think it was Chappie Ferrer last night, said Braithwaite is such a natural finisher, and I was thinking, no, he's not. No, he's not. And I think one of the worst things that we can do is to somehow read into this that Braithwaite is our solution. I thought he scored 2 relatively simple chances. He took them well, but any professional footballer, never mind at the top league, missing them, questions would be asked. So I actually think we learned nothing about Braithwaite last night. The fact that the ball was bouncing around and we got there is probably because of how disruptive Memphis and Griezmann were, though.
Well, I agree with you on the sitter, right? And also, like, he put on Instagram today, like, I do my talking on the pitch. I was like,
yeah, ludicrous. Potentially the worst thing that his record.
Yes, I said, pump the brakes. Like, you had a great performance, but I really want to focus on the last goal that he assisted on because that to me was the moment. Because this is also going to relate into the defense that I want to talk about a little bit. In that last moment, he had the perseverance to use that right flank, get the edge, make the cross, and obviously your boy Sergio Roberto was there to finish. That to me was not happening last season with Martin Braithwaite. Now that's what I'm talking about. That type of effort, that type of dangerousness that we haven't had on the right side, and also Serginho Dest. Now, I see you rolling your eyes still. I'm still on a wait and see, right? Because this is one performance. Now it was against Real Sociedad, so we can't just flap against that it was against Alaves, for example.
Yeah, agreed.
That type of thing. Let's go back to this. So the other thing I think also that's going to provide is the pressing and the win back ability that we haven't had in a while. I think is going to jump up twofold this season. Memphis, Martin Braithwaite, and Griezmann, the pressing they did last night, all 3 of them in tandem was impressive because how many times did Sociedad get the ball and they didn't know where to turn and the goalkeeper had to kick it out of bounds, for example, or a mishandled pass. And those to me is like the old basic principles of, trying to get the ball back as Barca does. And when all 3 are working like that and working together, I think those are good things to come.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I agree with you. There's no doubt that Braithwaite works very, very hard. And I will agree with you as well that he was utilising a flank that we criminally underutilised in many ways last year because, Messi was doing amazing things, but he was very rarely doing the bits that Braithwaite done last night, should we say. But I know which one I'd rather have. Before anyone gets aggressive, listen to this driving to work. I know which one I would rather have. But I take your point. The pressing, absolutely. I just hope that Braithwaite isn't there when we start getting into the season. He did well against a good Sociedad side. He brings a bit of energy. I think Memphis has crowned Braithwaite a bit last night. Okay. Memphis, and I'm sorry to turn this from a Braithwaite chat to a Memphis chat, but what I was struck with last night was just how much Memphis reminds me of Suarez.
Yes, me too.
And the reason Braithwaite was able to get to those balls is because Memphis has taken 2 defenders away.
Yeah.
Griezmann is horrible to play against. So hopefully we're in a position where we're not relying on 1 or 2 goal scorers like we were last year. Because, if we continue like this, fair enough. If Braithwaite gets 10 goals, he's a revelation for us this year. For how much in relative terms he's paid, etc.
Sure.
So yeah, his work rate, absolutely without question. But I think better players made him look better last night. And yeah, the social media presence on it was ridiculous. I'm glad he got man of the match. Lovely moment for him. But I mean, you're not missing those chances. And that's all I can think of is that he will probably never have 2 easier chances than he got last night. Although a bit of bravery on the first one, a lot of players could have ducked out with that. In fairness.
Well, let's break this down because I think you hit it right on the head. Memphis reminded me of Suarez too, young Suarez, right? When he first came to Barca, fighting for everything. And that's almost kind of the thing is like, I kind of want Memphis because last night he was getting hacked all over. It's just like, don't put everything in these first 3 games because we need you for the rest of the season because again, like we said, a revelation and just the tenacity he was. The way he was holding the ball and distributing was awesome to see, because we haven't had that in the last 2 years essentially.
Yeah.
And just to see that again, and also just the freshness and the pace that he brings, because that's the other thing. Like when we were talking earlier this summer, I just didn't realize how quick he was with the ball, and also just how he's finding those gaps. And like you said, he's going to create havoc for the defense, but also, that's a nice thing to have when he's occupying those two. Braithwaite's going to be able to, basically get those leftovers and those easy, putaways essentially.
I mean, hopefully not. Hopefully someone else plays. But I take your point. I take your point entirely. Yeah, I mean, I actually think what we'll see is Braithwaite. If he stays, Braithwaite will probably be Messi's Memphis's replacement. Is what I see. I think Braithwaite will be asked to do a similar job last 15, 20 minutes of games. If Messi's, I'm doing it again. If Memphis is taking a hiding, this is going to take some getting used to. If Memphis is taking a bit of a kicking, I can see them getting swapped out, because Braithwaite, in theory, can do what Memphis is asked to do. You can go and just make life difficult for defenders. You don't have to beat players the way Memphis does. You don't have to, that little reverse pass through to Alba yesterday was beautiful for third goal, I think it was. Really, really good. Braithwaite doesn't have to do it. He just has to take one or two defenders away, and that's where we get the overload. If we press on the front and we're also able to get an overload on defenders, that's how we'll get goals again. And that's very 2014 Barca, 2014, 2015 Barca, which was brilliant to watch. So I think that's where Braithwaite's role will end up. Hopefully we see, I'd like to see Fatty in there. I think if we have someone that can really run in behind with electric pace, if you're Memphis and Griezmann, you almost invert that triangle a little bit. That could be amazing to watch. So, hopefully Braithwaite has a role, but hopefully it's not the role that he's got. I'd love to see Memphis and Griezmann kick on together. I think they could be an absolute handful. They could be what we had with Eto'o and Henry.
Ooh.
Just pace, power, work rate, working back. I mean, Griezmann at times was a better defender than Piqué and Garcia yesterday, who had great games, by the way. He's just everything, and I'm excited by that. By the final third of the pitch, I'm just not excited by Braithwaite being in there.
Well, perfect transition, because that was going to be my next question. It was the Piqué thing. Piqué played on the left side, basically for the first time, and he was paired up with Garcia. We had a lot of chat in our WhatsApp group about why isn't Araujo starting. I thought it was an interesting move. I mean, obviously, Sociedad didn't put too much pressure in the match. I mean, I think Barcelona did a pretty good job of keeping them at bay, except for that last 10 minutes, of course, at the end of the match, as we always like to do that. But what do you think of Piqué and Garcia's partnership? Do you think that is going to be the first partnership going forward? And do you see Araujo breaking into this, or do you just think Koeman is going with Garcia from now on?
What I would love, and I'm not going to answer your question here, unfortunately. What I would love is what I would love is that we don't have a settled partnership.
Okay.
Because one of the problems that we've had historically is that we've had an absolute rock solid central defender partnership, and then someone else came in, we looked a mess. If we had a position where them three learn to play in all of the possible combinations together, because all three should complement each other. You've got Piqué, big, strong leader, go and win the ball in the air. You've got Garcia, rapid at the back, go and clean up. Araujo is kind of a combination of the two in many ways. If we get a situation where all three of them are comfortable playing with each other, that's what we need. That would be the dream, and that's what I hope that we see with Koeman is that we can chop and change them, because it's detrimental to us when we don't have that. When all of a sudden Umtiti starts and it's panic stations. But this has been long before Umtiti was here at the club. We've had this for a long time, where our third choice central defender was someone we didn't want to play really. So that's my dream, and also I hope that they become used to playing as a three as well.
It's a good point. Change. I mean, this always goes back. Do you think Koeman has the basically the balls to do that? Because that's the thing is, with last night's substitutions, it kind of, it almost looked like a 5-back just trying to protect the lead again. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until a counter that we scored that fourth goal. But again, being a coach of Barca, right, you have that fine line of just trying to get the victories and able to experiment to how much, right? Because like you said, I would love to see more rotation. I was talking with a coworker today about how, in this era, Koeman really needs to do more rotation and to give more confidence to these players, so that if they are called upon, and it's not because of break glass of emergency like we had with Mingueza last year, and we're like, oh, by the way, he can play because we only had, we had no one left. But we need to be able to bring these players up so that when they're called upon, they have the confidence, they know how to play with each other. And I think it's a great idea. But again, does Koeman do that. That's the thing, because I would love to see Araujo get more time, rotate with PK and Garcia and see how that goes, and eventually maybe going into a 3.
Yeah, I think it does. I think the one thing I don't think you can accuse Koeman of is being weak in his decision making. I think he's brave, borderline stupid. Maybe stupid is a bad word. Reckless maybe is a better word. I think he's brave almost to a fault. He will say what he feels, and he will do what he thinks. He's seen it with the comment of Messi, where Messi's gone now, and he's closed the book. Bloody hell, Ronald! Like, you might be thinking it, but wow, okay. And I don't think we need to worry about whether Koeman is brave enough to do something. It's whether it's the right thing that he's done. So I think if you're Koeman, that must be in your thinking, because surely you can see the talent of those 3. Again, if he gets it right, it's the perfect scenario by which we can have PK's influence, but we don't need to overload his legs, because we've got 2 ready-made first-team international players that we can blood in. And then, as in an ideal world, as PK, almost like a sound mixing desk, as you're phasing PK out over the next 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, you bring Nico through. And you start the cycle again. That would be the dream, right? Because then it's costing us no more money than what we've paid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think if we can ship Umtiti out and get a bit of cash, it looks like he might be, based on recent activity of training and match day squads and whatnot. I would keep Longley around just in case, but I think we can try and move him on. I think at centre half, we're actually in a good position, and I think Koeman knows that position better than anyone, right? So hopefully you see what's in front of him, and I'm really confident. And as I say, I'd love us to get to a point where we don't know which 2 are starting any game, and we also don't care.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I just want to finish this with the last thing. Can we give Pedri a vacation? I mean, I cannot believe that he played last night. He's our crown jewel right now, and I cannot believe that Koeman played him last night. When I saw him on the starting 11, I don't know how you felt, but I was just like, please, like, make the decision and know your players, especially Pedri, who's so young and played the most matches out of anyone essentially in the calendar year. Don't play him till mid-September or something. Like, we'll be okay. We have depth at midfield right now to intertwine with that, especially with Demir, and we could use Ricky Puig for these first games. I mean, come on, like. Yeah.
It's a difficult one. And so the 2 players that played the most minutes in Europe last season were Pedri and Callum McGregor, who's captain now of Celtic, and obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, I follow Celtic as well. Callum McGregor is a phenomenal player. Without being disrespectful to Celtic as a club, he should certainly be playing in a better league. That's how I'll try and get myself out with that one without losing friends. Okay. And I have the same feelings of both of them when they start playing. The difference being this weekend is that Sociedad are a very difficult team, and I get it. I would be content. So we've got Athletic next. We've then got Getafe. I would be happy for Pedri to play against Athletic, but we've got to be looking at a change for Getafe, because we should be beating them slightly easier than we should be beating Athletic, I would say. Beyond that, certainly the next game that looks like, we've got Athletic, we've got Getafe, we've got Sevilla, then we've got Granada. If he plays that Granada game, irrespective of what's happened between now and then we've got to ask some serious questions about where we see the replacements in that squad. But I look at Pedri, I look at Callum McGregor, and I just think, God, there's got to be an alternative than running these guys in the ground. It's sad to see, but then his quality on the ball is just.
I know it is, but especially with Pedri, like, I know he had a good game last night, but the thing is, like, especially against Getafe, he cannot play against Getafe, and I would even sit him against Athletic too, because Athletic could take some hacks at him as well.
Or at least. I was going to say, or at least, let's hope we go a few goals up at half time and we start seeing him getting him subbed out. But, if he plays the next 4 games and plays 90 each game, then we can't be doing that. But just playing devil's advocate, and I was thinking this last night, is that all the noises out of the club are that he wants to play. Like, you've then also got, you had the same problem with Messi as a youngster, right? Which is, Messi would say, no, I'm playing. And he would get annoyed if he didn't. If Pedri's got the same drive, then Koeman's got a very difficult decision here, because you don't want to have him burn out, but to keep the analogy, you also don't want to burn him out. So you can't allow him to burn himself out any more than you can burn him out by playing him. So I think if that's what's happening, it's a big if. Obviously, I'm just massively casting out there and seeing what comes back. But if that's the case, then I feel for Koeman a little bit, because that's a very hard thing to manage if that's what's happening. If the noises are true and that Pedri is almost semi-demanding to play, what do you do?
Sit him. You're the coach. I mean, come on. I mean, Pedri is still not. I mean, Pedri's Pedri, and he has the great future, and we see what he is, but he's still not a superstar yet, and he cannot demand that. Koeman has to be smart to utilize his time to use other players and just survive and get the maximum points out of the summer, especially with players who played in tournaments this season and this summer.
I agree.
And the thing is, yeah, he could demand to play and stuff. I'm sorry. You're going to play after Getafe, and that's it. Take the break. I'm glad he wants to be playing. He wants to be involved. I applaud that. But I'm sorry. I'm the coach. I'm looking out for your future, and I want you to take some rest because I need you for the rest of the season. I'm not going to just burn you out, like you said. I think it's a very easy decision. But again, I understand that Koeman has a small window of his contract and stuff, and so he's just going to maximize the players and try to get as many wins on his end. So I understand that, right? So that's a
great point, actually. Yeah.
So for him, it's just, basically just using the cavalry. He's just like, I have 1 year contract, baby. Like, I love the club and so forth, but my goal is not to preserve Pedri for 5 years. Like, I'm going to use him like a video game. When you play FIFA. And remember when the players would be like tired, you're like, I could squeeze out another game out of this guy, like whatever. I don't really care. It's a video game. So maybe Koeman has the same idea. Well, like you said, the next game is against Athletic, followed by Getafe. So these will be some tough matches. Like I said, we'll have a Barca Talk on August 30th after the Getafe match. And I'm really looking forward, like you said, the unpredictability chaos. I like that. I think we should make that into a T-shirt. Unpredictable chaos. For Barca this season, but I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks, Craig, for joining me, and we'll talk soon.
Take care.
Thanks for listening, and until next time, Forza Barca.